Good morning. My name is Eddie Cook. I am the Maricopa County Assessor. And Adam, if you want to flip to the next slide, or Elizabeth. And I've had the blessed privilege to serve in this role now for 2 years. In fact, on Valentine's of this month, on February 14th, which was a real famous day for the state. It's kind of its birthday and also the county's birthday. I had the pleasure of also going on a date with my wife later on that evening, but I also was appointed as the Maricopa County Assessor 2 years ago. And again, it's been a great honor and a privilege to serve in this capacity. And for the folks that don't know me, prior to me being part of the assessor's team, I had the privilege of serving on the Gilbert Town Council for about 9 years. And during my time on the council, we've seen a tremendous amount of growth in the town of Gilbert. And I'm still a resident of Gilbert since 1986, when the community was 12,000 residents, and now it's over 250,000. But I had the privilege of serving on multiple boards, here in the valley, from domestic violence to water-related issues and so forth. And then my background has been in the high-tech world for my entire professional career. And the assessor's office has some really cool technology as well. So it was a good fit for my time on the Gilbert Council as well as my technology background. And I'm a Sun Devil for those that have graduated from ASU. And if there's any Wildcats on the call, well, we'll let it pass today and not be rivals, but be team members together. Next slide, please. So here are some folks that make up my executive leadership team, and they are on this call. I have the great privilege of enjoying these wonderful individuals on my team. And at any time, if you feel like you like to reach out and call them, they'll be glad to take your call with that. Next slide. And then we have a number of our experts from the assessor office also joining us here as well, and they'll be pretty much be involved in sharing a lot of the presentation today. But one of the things that I have been really a big supporter and part of my leadership in supporting this concept of a one-team culture. And the individuals from my executive team, as well as a lot of the leadership team that's here on this list, are all part of this one team that we have here in Maricopa County and as part of the assessor's office. And it truly is a team that really serves, the citizens and the property owners here in Maricopa County, where we want to do the right thing, where our customer service and supporting our property owners is really number one for us, and having a very collaborative and educational, dialogue with our property owners is really very, very important. And when I look at the 1.8 million properties that our office pretty much manages as it relates to fairly and equitably and accurately and impartially value properties. We have just an outstanding team to provide that service for those property owners. So again, I express my sincere thanks to my executive team as well as the rest of my leadership team that's here on the call today. Next slide. So the role of the assessor, and that's a Arizona constitutional, role that I have is to truly and fairly determine the valuation without favor or partiality of all taxable property at its full cash value. Now, there was some other things that happened in the past, like Proposition 117 that was voter approved, that has changed the way all the assessors in Arizona um, provides, the valuation of property. And that, as you may know, and hopefully know, that's the limited property, the LPV. So all of the properties here in the state of Arizona, they determine of, the valuation used for property taxes and property tax rates and levies that those governing bodies have the privilege of deciding as a policy for school boards or city and town councils or the county supervisors or fire districts or water districts. Those governing bodies will use the valuation that we calculate, and it's based upon the limited property value. So all of the property tax rates that are either primary or secondary are based upon the LPV. Next slide. With this, I'd like to introduce my chief deputy, Dawn Marie Buckland, and she's pretty much what I would say is the CEO of my organization. She uh, is just a wonderful and very compassionate, very knowledgeable in business, in technology, and I would like her to share with you our mission and our vision here in our office. Don Marie.
Well, thank you, Assessor Cook. As you've heard from the assessor just a moment ago, his instruction to us is to make sure that we really are reflecting the mission of the office, which is to fairly and equitably value land and property. So you're not going to hear from us that we're trying to get the highest possible value. Some of those things that sometimes we are afraid our government may be doing, and that's just not the case here. We want to make sure that we're truly, fairly, and equitably valuing the land and property. And we've got a very dedicated team here that is helping us to do so. As you see here, our mission is to serve in the highest regard by providing a fair and equitable valuation of all taxable property in Maricopa County without favor or partiality, while efficiently and effectively administering applicable laws and industry standards. Our vision is to be a best-in-class organization that's recognized for its accuracy, transparency, innovative solutions, and high-value services. And I will tell you that is not just a series of words to us. That's something that we are absolutely living out and working every moment to try and achieve. Next slide, please. One of the ways that we're doing that is through our strategic planning process. And that's something where we had a cross-functional team across our agency helping us to look at the feedback we're getting from you all, the work we're doing every day, and really and truly understanding what it is that we're doing well and what it is that we wanted to continue to do even better at. So this strategic plan provides us with that roadmap, that direction for how we're going to achieve that. That's available on our website now. I encourage you to go and take a look at it. We have a lot of great information out there about that and all the different aspects of what we're trying to accomplish. One of the areas that you've probably already seen is our digital first initiative. And that's we've been a very highly paper-oriented organization for some time now. And it has ensured that we get reliable and predictable results, that we get the information that is required by statute. But we want to make sure that we're creating a better customer experience for all of our customers, for all of you, for all of our customers, internal and external. And one of the ways that we can do that is by automating some of those processes. So not only are we rolling out online platforms as we did last year with the appeals process, we're actually down in the legislature this year requesting some changes in legislation where there are requirements for folks to actually appear in person in our office to allow us to provide those options digitally and securely, making sure that there's still a way of documenting the receipt and those types of things, the benefits that you get from appearing in person, but providing that remotely so that we can provide more flexibility to our customers. Next. So with that, if Assessor Cook and I are happy to answer any questions about the general strategy of the office, about his vision and philosophy, or we can jump into the values. Are there any questions? All right. I think then I'm turning this over to Uwe.
Morning, everybody. My name is Uwe Hohoff. I'm part of the team that's responsible for the development of our tax year 2023 values. So I'm going to provide a little bit of a high level overview of our changes in our values from tax year 2022 to 23. So next slide, please. So if we're looking at our real property count, we're about 17,000 parcels shy of 1.7 million. In order, in terms of our largest categories, we have single family residential at 1.3 million, vacant land 109,000, commercial 72,000. We have 37,000 mobile homes, 31,000 apartments, and just under 12,000 agricultural properties. Next slide, please. So if we were to compare our median value changes for each of those categories, vacant land, our median value is 53,200, and that's an increase of 31% over the previous year. Single family residential increased 30%. Our median is now 352,000. Condominiums 225,000, and that increased 25% over the previous year. Apartments is our largest change. That category increased 40%. Our median value is 474,000. Commercial properties, 17%, 851,700. And our manufacturing housing increased just under 25%, and with a median of 92,300. And with those increases, it's not unexpected to see our limited values pretty much increased 5% across the board in each of those categories. So next slide, please. So if you were to look at these categories in a historical perspective, I believe there's about 15, 16 years of tax years here. Back in 2005 to 2007, moving through the Great Recession, moving through, 2020, we were hit by COVID. A lot of our sales and our changes were fairly modest. I believe last year, if you were to look at the same slide, were the apartments and the vacant land. All of the other categories had a less than 10% increase in tax year 2022. Next slide, please. So if we look at commercial construction, we added 337 parcels, and that is as of a point in time. I probably extracted that last week. I would expect that number to increase as we move into our notice of change. So it'll probably be fairly similar as it has been the last few years. Certainly not where we were at our highest counts between 2005 and 2007. But I will say, when you look at that number, it's a little bit, it's not necessarily misleading, but about 60% of the inventory of new commercial construction at that particular point in time was related to commercial condominiums. So, but again, like I say, it's been relatively stable in terms of new construction, and I anticipate that number as we move through notice of change for tax year 2023 to increase. Next slide, please. So if we look at our commercial sales, again, this is a historical perspective going back to 2003. We've actually hit pretty much the second highest since 2005 in terms of our commercial transactions. They increased, I believe it's about 40% from 2020. 2020 was a bit of a softer year. I think it was, when we were getting started going through the pandemic, first part of 2020. 2020 sales for commercial dropped about 10%, but like I say, we had quite a robust market for commercial property sales in 2021. Failure 21, sorry. Next slide, please. Again, this graph is a very general overview of the commercial sale price per square foot from a historical perspective. As you look toward the far right-hand side of the graph, in 2021, our prices have increased fairly significantly relative to the prior year, where you see a little bit of stability from 19 to 20. But again, on average right now, if we're looking at median sale price per square foot, and like I say, median represents the middle of our sample here, there's going to be some obviously higher, some lower, depending on the property class that you're actually looking at. But we're basically in the, for a median anyway, we're basically in the $200 square foot range right now. Next slide, please. Okay, if we were to break down our commercial into our two-digit use codes, what we're looking at here is what the median percent changes for each of those particular categories. We've also added, just for a bit of a historical perspective, what we were the last few years. This table is a little bit different. This isn't measuring the change in median value. It's measuring what is the actual median percent change. And then our largest categories in tax year 2023 fall into our industrial categories, which were 22, 28% increase. The majority of the other categories are typically in the 11 to 15% range change. So, and again, last year our commercial was fairly modest in terms of the change of 1%, and the prior year we were about 5%. So, like I say, you'd have to go back to find a similar change. I guess I've done too many of these presentations, but you'd have to go back to 2000 and tax year 2007 to find a similar change for commercial property. So a little bit of information there, maybe too much. All right, next slide, please. Okay, so if we were to look at our vacant land sale counts, vacant land sales increased approximately, I believe, about 20% over the previous year. Have been relatively stable throughout the last 3 to 4 years, but like I say, our market was quite active in pretty much all property categories in sale year 2021. So, next slide, please. Okay, if we were to visualize this based on a sale price per square foot, it's kind of counterintuitive because it looks like our values per square foot are dropping in both of those categories. Really what we're seeing here is it's actually a shift in terms of the land size of the properties that are selling. We're having a lot of larger land sizes for both residential and commercial, which basically supported by the fact that we are having a lot of larger manufacturing, lots of larger land subdivisions that are coming online. And that's the reason why our value per square foot, sale price per square foot, is actually dropping. Our land sizes are larger. They're actually, the sales of the land sizes have been getting larger in 2021. Next slide, please. Oh, okay, so moving along to apartments. In the first slide, it was one category. What we're doing here is we're breaking it into the two categories the way we actually value them. So our smaller apartments, the median value for our smaller apartments is $425,000 in tax year 2023, which is an increase of 40%, which is quite a large increase, obviously. And our 13 plus unit apartments increased just under 10%, with a median value of $10.7 million. And if we were to look at the activity, you know, apartments, the sale counts dropped, I believe, by about 10% or so in from 2019 to 2020, but they basically almost doubled this past year. We are getting quite a lot of larger apartment sales in our market right now. So, and as far as the 2 to 12 units go, it looks like the counts have been relatively stable for the past 5 years. Next slide, please. Okay, so if we were to visualize our median sale price for our smaller apartments, our 2 to 12 units, right now it looks like we're basically median price between $600,000 and $700,000, and we've certainly come a long way. You know, from when, you know, during the Great Recession back in 2007 to 2011, 2009 to 2011, sorry. The prices have, you know, basically gone, which we're heavily influenced by foreclosures from 100,000 up to where we are right now, 600,000 or 700,000. So quite a big change historically in that particular category. Next slide, please. So looking at the price per unit for apartments, again, historically, going back to 2010, I keep wondering. Keep wondering if this line is ever going to stop increasing. Apartments is, like I say, it's been a very healthy market for quite a few years. Right now, the median per unit is about 260. I did take a look at some of the 2022 sales, and you know, we're getting quite a few sales over $300,000 a unit, which is something, you know, 10 years ago we would think, you know, we probably wouldn't have seen. But you know, it's quite an active market for our larger apartments, and our valuations are reflecting that. Next slide, please. So, as far as the models that our group develops and the approaches, so we are using a market approach for residential, condo, vacant land, our 2 to 12 unit apartments, commercial condos, warehouses, industrial, and small offices. And we use an income approach for our larger apartments and our hotels and resorts that are over 200 rooms. Everything else is valued using the cost approach. Next slide, please. Just a couple of reminders for those of you who are familiar with looking at our cost records. We have the same submarket adjustment factor for the offices as we did prior year. There's also an additional schedule for offices that are larger than 10,000 square feet. That's based on the effective age of the structure. And the thing about commercial cost submarket adjustments is that it's applied to the improvement values only, does not include any exempt government properties or statutory set shopping centers. Next slide. Well, that's it for me. I guess I could take any questions if anybody would have any. Well, I guess I was really clear. All right, thanks everyone.
Well, you were fantastic. Thank you.
Morning, everyone. I guess it's my turn. It's Socorro Candelaria with the appeals team. I would like to inform you, if many of you don't know, Frankie Woodard retired this year. And so we have someone who has joined us and taken her place, and her name is Cindy Malinar. She was on the listing when they showed you as far as the management for our one team. If you would go to the next slide, please. So our appeals, our notice of values will be mailed out tomorrow. The notices will have an appeal deadline of April 26th. And we would really, really like for you all to try out our online submittal of appeals. I realize many of you have your own system set up, but you'll find this to be very user-friendly. Next slide, please. This is the you will go into our website and click on appeals. It will then bring you to this landing. You'll have to create an account, of course, and a login. Next page, please. Next slide. Once you've created your account and your login, it'll take you to this landing, and you're able to file an appeal by clicking on the lower left-hand corner where it says file a new appeal. The advantage to this is that you'll be able to track or look at all the appeals you've submitted within our office as well. We had about 40% appeals submitted electronically. Yes, the bulk of them were residential properties. Next slide, please. Some of the advantages to going online and submitting your appeals, whether it's residential or commercial, is there's a lot of information that's auto-populated for you, like the owner, where the notice was mailed to. It also gives you prompts. If you look at the lower left-hand part of the screen, and my mouse isn't going to point to it, but it has a pause button. And then on the right hand of that screen, you would go to the next, and it basically prompts you to continue on. A pause means you can put your appeal on pause in case you need to go look for some additional documentation and come back to it. Next slide, please. And at the end of the day, after you've completed your appeal, as you can see, the form itself looks just like the Department of Revenue's form. It populates all the information for you after you've completed it. It helps prevent for any kind of errors. You sign in, you have a electronic signing, and you receive a copy of this petition via email once you've completed the entry of your appeal. You can log in, as I stated earlier, to retrieve or view all the appeals you may have submitted with our office. Next slide, please. That ends my part of it. So since none of you had questions for my colleagues, do you all have questions for me?
Well, I think the one thing that we're hoping for, Socorro, is that the valuation of all properties may not require an appeal because our team does such a fantastic job, and maybe they may not need to do the online appeal pull down on our website, but the option is there available for all of them.
So I can see that someone has mentioned, while the new online filing system is nice, specifically for those who might be filing an individual appeal, will we continue to have the ability to file appeal via email? No. When we did emails, it was basically during the COVID period. At this time, we would really, really, really like for you to file your appeals via online. Otherwise, at this point, we would recommend that you would do your paper if you're not able to use our online. Emails can get a little sticky and lost somewhere. Any other questions? Then I will hand it back to Dawn Marie.
Thank you. All right, next slide, please. So we did want to do a quick follow-up. I think many of you have heard us over the years talking about our big MARS project, which is the Maricopa Assessment Replacement System. And that project is resulting in our new geographic aided mass appraisal system. So the project name was MARS, but the product at the end of the project is this Assessment Analyst Gamma product. So we're pretty excited to get this across the finish line. It is a web-based product, and backed by a SQL platform. So the technology is great. We're going through and testing it right now. We have a couple of items that we're still resolving with the vendor. So we're looking to actually go live with that system here at the end of May. Did anyone have any questions about our system? I want to go into too much detail that may or may not be exciting for everybody. All right, thank you. Next slide. Some more examples of the interface there and how that will work. Next. And next. All right, next slide, please. So with that, Mr. Cook, did you have any final comments that you wanted to leave for the group?
Well, again, to many of you, thank you for your service that you provide to those individuals that have asked you to help them with their taxes, especially related to property taxes. And one of the most important aspects of our office is to have, again, a really wonderful collaboration with you and your teams. That your interaction with the assessor's office is one that is, very positive and very collaborative. There may be opportunities where if you find errors with some of the things that we may have done, we're very open to being able to meet and chat with you, about those errors so that we can actually be more accurate, with the deliverables that we do. And I just want to share with all of you, our office is really not going to hold a hard line that our numbers that we have calculated for the valuation is the correct one. We want to do what's right. And if there is an opportunity where through the appeals process where there's a reasonable business case that we may have made an error in our calculation, we're going to be okay in accepting that. And for us to, again, try to hold a hard line with that, that's not what my direction for our office is going to hold. So we want to be able to have a win-win for both sides. And again, want to be very much focused on our citizens and property owners here in Maricopa County.
Thank you, Assessor Cook. And I think just to add what you were saying about feedback, we really do welcome that feedback. As you're using our new systems, the online appeal system, for example, we're constantly looking to update our systems, our processes, and make sure that it's as workable as possible. So we would welcome your feedback as you go through and use that. I know there were some questions about email earlier. We just really want to make sure that that your information that it gets submitted, that it's recorded, that it gets into the right processes, and emailing doesn't allow us to do that. So we want to make sure that we actually do receive it in and get it processed, and don't create any hold times on that. And if you're finding and using our online system that there are little things that you would recommend, we would love to hear about those things, because we do have the ability to make those updates and changes on a year-to-year basis as well. So we thank you so much for your time this morning.